hatte Keks, 7, 8, gute Nacht, Einfall, Polizei, 3, 4, Grenadier, 5, 6, hatte Keks, 7, 8, gute Nacht, Einfall, Polizei, 3, 4, Grenadier, 5, 6, hatte Keks, 7, 8, gute Nacht, Einfall, Polizei, 3, 4, Grenadier, 5, 6, hatte Keks, 7, 8, gute Nacht.
You are listening to Däs Bündesliga Show here on the Lock Betting Podcast. You can follow Lock Betting on social media, at Lock Betting on Instagram, on Truth Social, and on the YouTube channel where we are posting free betting content for you guys now. Also, the only one that's different is the TikTok, and that is at Lock Betting TT. That's at Lock Betting TT. Sign up at lockbetting.com for the service that has delivered 136 months in a row, transparent and track profit. All the spreadsheets are there for you to look at that accumulate to 136 months. So let's move on with this show. We're looking at 5 Bundesliga games, but just one from the early slate. We're covering the 5:30 game also on Saturday, and then we are covering 3 games from Sunday. So probably no real urgency to get this listened to once you've listened up to the first game, the only 2:30 kickoff. But I just didn't really love anything from the 2:30 slate. I have a slight lean on Dortmund because they have been in such good form. They came back from 2-0 down last Friday. When they actually woke up, they dominated the game and they carried on that dominance onto scoring 7 past Celtic. So I'm not actually sure if I should ride the momentum or whether this is a letdown spot away to Union Berlin. So I have skipped it. So we're looking at Bayer Leverkusen at home to Holstein Kiel, where Leverkusen are at home a 1-12 favourite. It's 11-1 on the draw, and it's 20-1 here on Holstein Kiel. If you look at the numbers here that we have for goals, they all point towards Holstein Kiel. That's because in the last couple of games, Leverkusen have had to put up defensive performances. They implemented a low block against Bayern Munich, which they did successfully, although Bayern Munich did create a few clear-cut chances. So Leverkusen were lucky, but in the end, they did not concede. They managed to do what they set out to do, which was implement a low block, stop Bayer Leverkusen from playing, and stop them from getting the winning goal in that game. They did the same thing in midweek. The Champions League game, the second half, was dominated by AC Milan chasing an equaliser, and Bayer Leverkusen sat in, they tried to defend, and they held on to their lead without any real threat of them making it 2-0. So a very different version of Bayer Leverkusen in the last 2 games. I think this is where we go back to normal. The goals date, as I said, is from Holstein Kiel. They have no clean sheet in the last 3. They've seen over 2.5 goals in 5 of the last 7, and they've seen BTTS cash in 5 of the last 7 as well. But they have no wins in the last 3, whilst their opponents have no losses in the last 5. And we know how many games they were undefeated for last season. That was ended by Leipzig, but they've now since started another run of 5 games unbeaten. For me, for this one, you simply go to the bet builder. You take half-time, full-time, as I think this is an opportunity for Leverkusen to get out in front. They did score the first goal against Bayern Munich and against AC Milan. I expect them to score the first goal here and in the first 45 minutes. And you simply pair that one up with the over 2.5 goals selection. So you're looking at a 1-2 and a 1-5 paired up together. That gives you a decent price on 2 things that I definitely think will happen here in this game. Up next, we jump across to the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. We're looking at St. Pauli at home to Mons, a basement battle where St. Pauli are the 11-10 favourites. It's 5-2 on the draw, and it's 11-5 here on Mons. This is the type of game St. Pauli will want to win if they want to survive, and this is the type of game Mons will be expecting to win. So I expect them to go at each other. In German football, you don't really see tight and cagey relegation battles. You see 2 teams that see each other as opponents that they can beat. So I do believe that taking BTTS with over 2.5 goals is the right way to go, because BTTS and over 2.5 goals individually are a little bit too juiced for me, but putting them together gives you significant plus money here at 23-20, which is plus 115. Both teams have scored with over 2.5 goals, cashing in 3 of Mons' last 4 Bundesliga matches, while St. Pauli They missed some big chances in each of their previous home Bundesliga contests. Their underlying numbers should be better, and they probably should have scored a couple of goals in their last home outing against Leipzig, where they were the better team. So I like them to definitely score a goal here, at least in this one, contribute towards scoring, giving us the BTTS and needing just one more goal here for the over. Up next, we look at the game between Heidenheim and RB Leipzig on Sunday, where RB Leipzig are a 7-10 away favourite. It's 3-1 on the draw, and it's 18-5 here on Heidenheim. Leipzig are very Jekyll and Hyde right now. They got themselves a win, a dominant win in the Bundesliga last week, and then they lost at home to Juventus in the Champions League, where they shipped 3 goals after previously being very solidly defensive at the back. I think this is a good bounce-back spot for them. Leipzig's last Bundesliga away defeat was in February, with 5 wins and 3 draws since then. Isn't overwhelmingly strong data, but I think they can roll over this Heidenheim side. This is the type of away game that I expect them to win. Heidenheim lost 3-0 to Freiburg in their last home league game, so I'm happy to take Leipzig at 7-10 here in this one. Up next, you have your game of the weekend, where Bayern Munich are travelling to Frankfurt, and Bayern Munich are a 1-2 favourite off the back of not winning a game this week. A disappointing draw at home to Leverkusen and a loss to Aston Villa in the Champions League, their first Champions League loss in 42 in the group stage. It's 15-4 on the draw, and it's 9-2 here on Frankfurt. This is a game where I think Bayern Munich go off. I think this is where I think they make up for dropping points last weekend and losing to Aston Villa. They've only scored 1 goal in the last 3 hours of football, and we know prior to that they scored 5-5-9. So I think they're good for at least 3 goals here in this game. We're going to take Bayern Munich and over 3.5 goals here, as I do believe there'll be a Frankfurt contribution. 6 of Frankfurt's last 8 matches have seen both teams score, including 3 of their 5 league games this season. A trio of Bayern Munich's Bundesliga fixtures this season have seen both teams score too, as has 12 of their 14 last away games. So strong data for a Frankfurt contribution. Given Bayern Munich's price in this game just being 1-2, there is actually value in just tacking on the over 2.5 goals, which takes it to 10-11. The over 3.5 goals for this game bumps it all the way up to 7-4, so nearly plus 200. I have to bite on that temptation. I'm going to take it up to over 3.5. The more sensible play would be over 2.5 because it's still a good price, but I'm willing to take the risk here, as I just feel that Bayern Munich are a pissed off, angry machine, and this is actually a fixture that's usually difficult for them, and there is a chance that they drop points or go without a win for 3 games in a row. But I think that would be somewhat of a mini crisis after such a strong start. There were doubts over Vincent Kompany. He's alleviated those doubts, and suddenly they'll creep in as soon as you have 3 strong fixtures with Leverkusen, Villa and Frankfurt, who you notoriously struggle against. Suddenly you don't win any of those games. That will be a concern. So whilst it's not a must win, I do believe that it's close to that, as close as you can get at this stage of the season anyway. And I'm going to take Bayern Munich to get it done here in this one. The final game is Stuttgart home to Hoffenheim, where Stuttgart are 1-3 favourite. It's 5-1 on the draw, and it's 7-1 here on Hoffenheim. Stuttgart have some strong home form, but they did drop points in the Champions League in midweek. That would be a disappointing result. They'll be looking to bounce back here. Stuttgart have played 9 games this season, 8 of which have seen both teams score, including midweek. Hoffenheim matches have followed a similar pattern, with 6 of their 7 games seeing both teams score as well. So both teams to score is a decent add-on here to Stuttgart winning this game. Stuttgart to win the game is obviously very short, as we said, but Stuttgart with BTTS tax on bumps this up to 13-10, plus 130 here for this one. That's it for me and this weekend's edition of Däs Bündesliga Show. Please check out all of the additional content. Please check out the EPL show, where your locks are available exclusively on social media. Listen to that show to find out why. There's also Scommessa Italia on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, on the Soccer Gambling Podcast, on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, we have the Fight Show looking at WWE Bad Blood, which goes down tonight. And here on the Lock Betting Podcast, you are currently listening to the Bundesliga Show. The NFL show is also available for free, but don't forget, we'll also be dropping the European show, which is part of the trio, the European show, the Champions League show, and the Europa League show that you can get behind the paywall for just $12.99. That's it for me. Thanks for listening.